Okay, it's Sunday morning. It's quite overcast, but I think it might be dry long enough to try some painting. But the issue I have is that I will be using a 2-pack paint, which I've never used before, an air gun, which I've never used before. So there's quite a lot to get set up. I'm not doing it in the garage, I'm going to do it outside. So the plan is to find something, a system to hang my parts on for painting. Then I've got to get suited up to keep the 2-pack paint off me, because apparently it's pretty nasty stuff. And then I've got to get the compressor fired up, got to play around with the air gun to kind of get my head around it, mix the paint and then spray it, and then get it hung back up in the garage before the weather changes. So no pressure. So this is my professional whirly go round painting apparatus, otherwise known as the old washing line. It is disposable. I've had it for years and we've got a new one, so the missus isn't going to go bananas. But the idea is that I can paint each thing and then rotate it round out of the way of the next one, and hopefully the weather will play ball. So that's the idea. It's either going to work or it's not going to work. I think I'm slowly getting towards being organised. It's taken me a while to faff around, sort of playing with the gun. I had issues with the water separator, and I've been PTFing just about every joint on this setup. So as frustrating as it is, it's necessary to get all these things ironed out first. So I think I am going to get changed into a disposable suit, and then I am going to clean the parts that are hanging up on the Paint Whirligig 5 million, and then after that I think I am going to mix some 2-pack paint and we're going to give it a go and see what happens. I mean, at the end of the day it's paint, so if it all goes horribly wrong it can be rubbed back and started again. That's the hardener, and then I want to add some thinners. So that was the first dust coat. Let's see if I killed the whole neighbourhood. Right, 2 coats of paint later. It definitely needs a 3rd coat. I am clearly not a painter. There are a few misses and areas where I've gone thin. Some of it's okay. Being a undercoat, a primer, it does mean that I can just rub down any mistakes, theoretically. But there are some areas where I'm kind of missing, which is underneath here. There's a dusting there, but there's not enough really. This probably doesn't show up because of the contrast of the background, but anyway, take my word for it, it's not perfect. This one's brilliant. This one, I think I dragged my hair through it at some point. I've dragged something through it. So if Bill's watching this, there you go, that's what happens when I get to paint. And this one's looking alright actually. It's a little bit thin in areas, like in that gap there. But other than that, it's looking alright. Maybe a little bit more needed in here. So I'm going to give it a few minutes, let it flash off, and then I'll put a 3rd coat on. A 3rd heavier coat seems to have made a huge difference. I just increased the amount of paint flowing out the gun, so it was less dusty and a bit more laid down. I think I'm slowly starting to get a bit of a feel for it. Less rush, take your time, don't run through it too quickly. And it seems to have laid down a nice flat coat onto it. Again, any painters who ever happen to watch this will probably be screaming at me. Not least because I'm doing it outside, but hey, this is what I got. I've got outside or nothing at all. And the yoke as well, I paid particular attention to getting up underneath it and into all the spaces that I missed on the first 2 dust coats. So again, quite pleased with that. So the idea is to hang them up in the shed now. Once they're sort of dryish, I'll hang them up in the shed overnight, and then tomorrow I can start flattening back, and then just pray for another warm, dry day. We can get some black top coat on there. I'm going to have to think a bit harder about how I'm going to do it though, because obviously I've got neighbours with laundry and all the rest of it. I have noticed that some of the paint drifts, and even the camera's got a light dusting on it, so it's something to be aware of. Something I need to think a little harder about, perhaps warn my neighbours that I'm going to be doing some painting. I got lucky with the weather today. I wasn't expecting to be able to paint, but it was warm and breezy and dry. But for a first attempt at using a 2-pack paint, I am reasonably happy with the results. There is a coating of primer on there, high build primer, and that should allow me to gently flat back any of the slightly rough feeling on it, which isn't too bad. It's not nearly as orange peely as I expected it to be. It's come out really quite well considering I was painting. We've got to wait for a good weather day to try and get on the gloss black, direct gloss black onto there, and take some of the lessons learnt from today and apply that to the next coat of paint. One of the issues I faced today was the disposal of the leftover paint in the pot. I mixed far too much really. I probably mixed nearly twice what I needed. A little seems to go a long way with this stuff. So that again is another lesson. So what I've done with the remaining stuff is brush it out onto these cardboard boards and let them air dry off. The gun itself performed quite well actually. I mean, obviously I've got zero baseline to measure it against, but it seemed easy enough to control. The pressure I controlled at the end of the gun using this cheap Chinese air gauge, although I was running it pretty much full power. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, but it seemed to work. I mean, yeah, it painted. Cleaning it's a bit of a pain in the arse. I used some gun wash and dismantled it and just let the parts soak in it for a little while. Cleaned out the pot and everything. I think is pretty squeaky clean now. But yeah, all in all, went better than expected. Garage is a tip again. That could be a job for this afternoon.